Welcome viewers to another instalment of the Football Talk Show Premier League Roundup Game Week 36. And to kickstart tonight's podcast, we are going to start with Chelsea Norwich. Hand over to you now. How are we tonight? How are we feeling?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Right as rain. You know, can't complain. Mustn't grumble. Not too bad.
Good. So, Chelsea with a convincing win over the already relegated Norwich, 1-0. And I don't think 1-0 really justified Chelsea's performance. Actually, I think it was kind of one-way traffic. And Giroud getting in on the score sheet. I think he's an underrated player. Doesn't get the credit he deserves at times.
I think he's one of those strikers. He is a top quality Premier. He's not world class. He's sort of in that bracket below. I mean, he's done well. He's tends to done well everywhere. He's been in the Premier League, hasn't he? To be fair, I don't. He's always a handful. Big, strong.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he just. Yeah, I'm surprised he's not been utilised more, especially at places when he was at Arsenal. You know, a club that was lacking that before Aubameyang. You know, before he came along, they were lacking that striker that could score goals and really push him up the league. And I was surprised that they just didn't utilise him more. But yeah, he got a clinical goal for Chelsea. Like I say, a convincing win. I've looked at the stats at the end of the game and Norwich were never really in it. I'm surprised it finished.
No, it would have been nice though, from a selfish point of view, had Norwich managed to hold out for a 0-0. But that said,
yeah.
No,
I think we were hoping for a little bit too much, weren't we? Norwich to go Stamford Bridge and get something.
And another assist from my boy Pulisic, again pulling up more and more trees every week in the Premier League. I think he's superb.
Yeah, He's kick-started really kick-started his Chelsea career again, hasn't he, since the lockdown.
Came back superb.
He's looking the real deal. I think Chelsea's probably picked up a bit of a good run of form at the right time, probably similar to United. But Norwich again. I know we said this on the last show. Probably not a lack of quality, but pure inexperience, and they look down.
A team on the way down. Yeah, well, it was good response for Chelsea. I think they got turned over, didn't they, by Sheffield the other week, so they need to get back to winning ways. And like I said, sometimes I know it's Norwich at home, but sometimes you've just got to grind out the 1-0, and they've done it. They've got the 1-0. They've not. It could have easily been one of those nights where nothing goes in, but they got the goal. I think right on the stroke of half time, and that's it. Good for Chelsea.
Yeah, like you say. But do you think Norwich can bounce back? Do you think they'll have that bounce back ability
next season? Yeah, I think if they stick with Daniel Farke, I don't think they'll be picked to ribbons too badly. I mean, they're not. They've not overspent this season, so financially they won't need to sell players. I don't feel. So I feel a lot of that group will still be there next season, and I feel the young players like the Godfreys, the Aarons, the Lewises, providing they're still there, they'll just benefit from that experience. And I expect them to be up there next season. Don't know if they'll come back first time, but they'll definitely be up there.
No. Yeah, no, I agree. And as for Chelsea, before we move on to the next game, Chelsea, I think European football's guaranteed. So whether it be Europa or Champions League, the signings that they're bringing in, I think they're going to be a real force next season. But I do think, as much as I do like Giroud, he isn't getting any younger.
Nope.
But I've heard rumours that is it Timo Werner's is that all done deal now? Is that signed?
Done, signed, sealed, delivered. Pretty sure he's done. Him and Hakim Ziyech from Ajax.
Yeah, that's going to be
attacking. Yeah, they're going to be a force next season. Of course, I don't know if Willian signed a new deal, but I think there's talk Willian could leave, so obviously they need to bolster attacking options. And two very good ages as well, Ziyech in his mid-20s and Werner's early to mid-20s. So yeah, two good signings for Chelsea. A solid first year for Frank. Not overachieved massively. Yeah. Let's not blow too much smoke up his arse. He's not overachieved. He's just done what you'd expect. So I'm not going to go saying he should be manager of the season, because that's a load of nonsense. He's not done a bad job. There you go.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do like Frank. Purely, he was one of the good guys, wasn't he, when he was around, and he was a likeable player. He wasn't the type to where you'd dislike, but he's, as a manager, he seems to have proven his worth. If you look at Derby this season, they've not pulled up any trees, so it just goes to show that he did do a good job this year. and he's done okay with Chelsea this year. I don't know what their fans think. It'd be nice to hear from the Chelsea fans in the comments. Just to get what was your expectations of Frank this year, and yeah, just where did you expect to finish, and would you class this as a good season? So we'll end on that note, and we'll move on to Burnley at home to Wolves. Ooh, wrong one. And that's the wrong one. I will get there in a minute. There we go. Burnley at home to Wolves. So 1-1 and another solid display from Burnley.
Yeah, once again, I've said it 1,000 times before. Burnley, they're consistent. They're not gonna. They're always a 7 out of 10. Always a 7. And if you turn up and you're not if you're underperforming, if you turn up and your players are playing a 5 out of 10, there's a very high likelihood you will get turned over by a Sean Dyche Burnley at Turf Moor. But Wolves, once again, another very consistent side, turned up, and it was quite a good game. I think did Wolves take the lead? I believe they did.
Well, Wolves took the lead, and it was they were playing well. They were controlling the play. They were looking after the ball really
them,
well.
Though, wouldn't you, to have more possession?
Yeah. They were well and truly in control. But Burnley, they just they are Burnley, aren't they? When someone mentions Burnley, the first thing you think of is solid,
pragmatic,
disciplined, structured. Exactly that. They don't give away too many goals and sloppy goals at that, especially under Dyche. And so Wolves, a lot of the ball, moved it really well, created chances, but just couldn't seem to. Nothing clear cut. It was all half chances. But the goal itself was a fantastic finish from Jimenez. Yeah, fantastic finish.
Shades of RVP there, wasn't it? Absolute clinical.
It was, and people talk about Jimenez and compared him to Vardy, not in his style of play, but his clinical game is his clinical finishing. And I disagreed, and I was a little bit sceptical at the start, and I thought maybe he's had a good season, but can he keep it up? But I've read somewhere that he's hit 27 goals in all competitions this year, and that's a fantastic return for any club, isn't it? So Jimenez really the real deal. I don't think he's going to stay there for much longer. I know there's not much talk of him going anywhere, but I think he will.
In the summer just gone, he was the top goal scorer in the Gold Cup, which is like the Euros for the countries in the area: America, Mexico, Canada.
South America.
So he's doing it in the on the international stage as well for Mexico. But very good striker.
Yeah.
Bit of more of a target man than Varda, but he definitely throws his weight around. He's dogged. He's Mexican and he's like a dog. He's rough. He's tough, but he has got quality.
Yeah.
And then I think it was a controversial penalty, wasn't it, that got Burnley back into the game?
Very much so. Yeah.
Chris Wood, former Leicester boy.
Yeah. The big legend himself. Yeah. Like I said, Burnley, but they didn't. It was a defensive performance from them, and up until I think it was the 97th minute they got it. They didn't look like they were going to really cause Wolves any problems. But they get a generous penalty, and again, VAR doing what VAR does best, and gives dubious decisions, which we thought we wouldn't see any more of that. So they get the penalty, and Chris Wood tucks it away nicely, and they've come away with a point, which I think for them this season they're the 8th or the 9th,
just solid,
something like
that. Burnley solid, just solid.
Yeah. It's a great season
Wolves
for
top
them
6?
again.
I would say so. I would
say so. I think that the 6th is pretty much nailed on for them. I can't see them falling any further.
They could still win the Europa League and get in the Champions League via that route, which is.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I forgot all about that, actually, to be honest. Is it the quarterfinals, semi-finals of the Europa?
They played Olympiacos before lockdown away in an away leg, and they drew 0-0, I think. So they've got to play them at the Molineux, but it's 0-0. So you'd expect them to get by Olympiacos.
Yeah.
Even though Olympiacos did knock Arsenal out, though, this year.
Arsenal, but Arsenal they're a poor side this year, aren't they?
A bit soft, isn't they? Yeah.
Let's not touch on them just yet, but they are a poor side, and I think Wolves are a real force. They had a bit of a sloppy start to the season, but they've really
handled
strong.
The busy fixture schedule really well.
Yeah. I think they've debunked the myth that you can't have a good season and play in Europa League. I think they've debunked it completely because they've not got a massive squad.
He seems to rely on the same players, doesn't he? Cody, Bollies, Neves, Matinho, say Jimenez, Jotas, Adamas, Doherty's.
Yeah, and I think where a lot of clubs will play in the Europa League or sometimes Champions League, and they won't always perform well. They'll have a sloppy season, and the first thing the manager will say, or the pundits, went, "Oh, you know, they're in Europa League and they're not used to it," and la-di-da-di-da. And you know, clubs before, you know, your Wolves and your Burnleys and Europa League, they've always coped. They've always managed to juggle these competitions. So I don't get that. I really don't get it at all. But yeah, Wolves, great season again. Burnley, solid. A point which Wolves will probably be disappointed with, but yeah, I think Burnley again really solid and proving the worth. Yeah, you know, in the Premier League. So moving on, we've got Man City at home to Bournemouth. Just flick these on now, and yeah, I've seen snippets of the game. 2-1 Man City, goals from David Silva and I think it was Gabriel Jesus with Brooks got one, was it late in the second half? Yeah. So, yeah, 2-1 Man City, and in all honesty, Bournemouth gave them a game. Well, Bournemouth really did give them a game.
If they're not going to get buoyed by rolling us over 4-1 last week, then, you know, so they were certainly up for it. They had a bit of fire in their belly. Honourable mention to David Silva, Premier League great. I think he scored a free kick as he's leaving at the end of this season. So shout out to David Silva, what a fantastic player he is. I think Jesus as well. I think Jesus scored an absolute cracking goal, I believe. I'm trying to picture in my head. I think he took it really well. I can't picture the exact moment in my head, but I remember thinking, Jesus, he's done well there. You pardon the pun.
yeah. It was. But two great goals from Man City's point of view. But you know, Bournemouth. You know, they had chances and they tested Ederson throughout. They'll probably be, in all honesty, a bit miffed that they didn't come away with at least a point. They got
their goal a bit too late, didn't they? It was a bit too little too late, and they couldn't really have enough time to mount put City on the back foot. But Jesus, good goal for Jesus, mentioned before, is he finally going to step out of Aguero's shadow? Good player, seems to have it all.
In all honesty, no, I don't think he will. Level. And I think that's harsh on the bloke, but I don't think he's at that. I don't think he's at that performance level.
As good as Aguero, just hands down.
No, he's nowhere near as good as Aguero. That's
not really an insult, is it? Because Sergio Aguero's probably been in the top 10 strikers for the past 7-8 years in the world.
Yeah, and he's consistent, and Aguero, and he's a fantastic player. And even though he's aged, he's still clinical and still scoring 16 to 20 goals a season, and that's just in the Premier League. So you know, he's fantastic. But you know, Jesus, I've watched him many times, and he does chip in. But then again, who wouldn't chip in that Man City side? You know, who wouldn't?
I think I get 10 to 15 a season.
About to say, I think, you know, with the likes of Sterling and Mahrez and Silva and De Bruyne,
Bernardo Silva, just the chances would be endless, wouldn't they? Conveyor belt on the front foot all game, every game.
I just don't think he's got that first touch. I don't think he's at that quality. I really don't. And if Man City are going to rely on him, I'm not sure.
You don't think he'll ever be you don't think he'll ever be the main man. You think he's a good squad player, but you don't think he'll ever be the main man.
No. Then that's going off.
He's only young, isn't he? So he could prove you wrong, but you can't argue with it. He's not pulled up any. He's not massively pulled up any trees. When you think you're playing City, you don't think, oh shit, Jesus.
No, not for 1 minute. And he has scored. You know, he has scored good goals and clinical goals, and you know he's a good player. I'm not saying he's not a good player.
You just don't think he's when you got to sustain. You don't think he's world class like an Aguero. You think he's a bit below, which is fair enough.
Yeah. But as for Bournemouth, again, you know, we touched on this on the last episode, and you know they do look down in the dumps, and you know they picked up a great result against our lot last week, and then they've come to Man City and put up a fight. You know, if they can put them performances together, bar the first half against us, but you know the second half and Man City performances as a whole, if they could put them performances together, I think they could be in with a shout. You know, just creeping out, and you know there's two. They've got 2 games left in the season.
It's out of their hands, isn't it? But you know, maybe it is just a bit too little, too late for Bournemouth. I personally think it's a bit too little, too late.
Yeah, and as harsh as this sounds, you know, you see the likes of you know Leeds United coming up, and if Bournemouth do go down, I don't think it does the Premier League any harm. And that's probably me being a little bit.
I agree.
Sceptical.
They've had a good run, nice little club, but get back, you know.
They've had the honeymoon. it's time to go home now. The flight's boarded in the next 5, so pack your bags and off you go.
Yeah.
But
that's it.
Moving on to Newcastle at home to Spurs, and Spurs managed to keep the good run of form. I wouldn't say it was not in great form, but they've managed to pick up 2 good results, beating Arsenal and now beating Newcastle away. 3-1, 2 goals from Harry Kane.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts on that one?
Well, we said it last time. I think Newcastle, they're safe. They've done well overall since lockdown came back. A bit on the beach. Say Tottenham once again, not too much to play for, but say buoyed by the win in the North London derby turned up, and I think it was just a case of Tottenham are just a better team than Newcastle. 2 good goals for Kane and 1 for Son. The usual suspects. Yeah. It just looked like it looked like the kind of game there wasn't a lot riding on. It had the end of season feel. But Tottenham, just their class overall shone through. Decent game. Richie scored an absolute banger, which is
he did, yeah,
good. But no, say Harry Kane, good to see from an England point of view. It's always good to see him in the goals. And Heung-min Son, he's a top class player. But yeah, there's not too much really to read into that game, as it had the end of season feel. Competitive, but Spurs the better team and rightly won.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen the highlights, and I catch the goals, and if I'm basing it on the highlights, you'd think Spurs went there and controlled the game and were convincing, but it wasn't. That didn't tell the story. When you actually look at the stats on paper at the end of the game, Newcastle were well in the game, and if not better than Tottenham. It was a case of, Tottenham have got a Harry Kane and Newcastle haven't, and I think that was the difference at the end of it. You've got to be able to take your chances.
Oh, of course.
And Spurs did.
Doesn't matter what level.
And Mourinho sets his sides up now like that, don't they? They're not a lot of Mourinho sides these days. They won't create a hatful of chances. They can be a little bit structured, a little bit boring from time to time. But when you've got an Harry Kane, you've got every chance to get a goal or two.
They're more worried about what's going in at the other end, aren't they, as opposed to what's come in.
Yeah. And like I say, Spurs little too late really for them to make any sort of push. I know they're not a million miles away. I think they can. I think
I mentioned a few things. I think there's a few variables that mean Tottenham could end up in Europe next season. But for Tottenham, I think it's all about Champions League, isn't it? I think they've had it for the past 4 or 5 years now in a row. So I think overall, I look back at this season as one of transition. Probably happy to see the back of it, to be honest with you, for Tottenham fans.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on, hasn't there, behind the scenes that I'm sure none of us really know. There's been rumours flying around, but Mourinho, is he the man to take them forward? I think we touched on this last time. I think
Mourinho is kind of a here and now success guy, as opposed to a dynasty that's gonna last 10 years, 5 to 10 years. I think he's just a here and now kind of guy. Whereas Poch, you had the ethos of the young players. You don't really feel that with Mourinho at all, do you?
Yeah, and I think if the rumours are true that the players did down tools, I'm not sure. We hear that a lot, especially referring to our club. But you hear that a lot, that players down tools and they don't, and this and that. But now, if that's true, Tottenham have lost a real good manager in Poch. Young, ambitious. He's a good manager. He's took them to apart from winning the league, that season when they drove us right to the end. That's as high as they're going to get, really, isn't it? Unless they're going to go on to win the league. So I think to lose him, for him to walk away as well,
disastrous. In the long run, disastrous. Yes.
I think they're kicking themselves now. I really do. But like I say, Newcastle, Stevie Bruce. Again, we spoke about him previously. Will he be there next year?
So. I think the only time he'll go is if there is new ownership and they have their own ideas. But I think he's done as well as he could do with Newcastle, and they should be relatively pleased with what he's achieved.
Yeah, and like I say, and the Tottenham performance, even though they lost 3-1, and then there's the results that matter. It's not the performance. Well, it is the performances, but it's not the statistics at the end. All that matters is the scoreline. And if that's if them performances are anything to go by, if they can keep that up for next season, I think they'll make a push.
Yeah, European football is not off the table if they can get their acting gear early enough on in the season. It's not. If Burnley can do it, Newcastle can do it.
Yeah, like you say, and anything that the Europa League spots, I think anyone can get in them at the moment.
There's probably a host of 7 clubs: your West Hams, your Watfords, if they stay up. Or at the start of the season, these Evertons, these type of clubs think. Even a Palace, they might think if we have a good year, top European football's got to be the ambition. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. So moving on to, potentially was a big one. Arsenal at home to Liverpool.
Liverpool now failing to get about 100 points. They wanted. What was it? Let's get it. It was a snatch and grab. Let's be frank. I mean, both
took the words straight out of my mouth.
Goals for Arsenal, Lacazette and Nelson, taken them well, but architects of their own downfall. Really, Liverpool. Really bad mistakes by Alisson, and I think it was Van Dijk of all people.
Van Dijk. Yeah,
I think it's just
really sloppy.
I just think it's one of those things. No matter how, I think Graham Souness said it on Sky. No matter how much you tell yourself, we're not going to let standards slip. Now they've won the league, we're going to keep going. I think it subconsciously you do drop that. Even no matter how hard as a team you try to keep those levels up, you do drop a 1 or 2%, and in the Premier League that makes all the difference. But that said, they absolutely battered Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say, when you sit there, you hear the result, and you think Liverpool, again are sat on the beach and they've had enough. When you watch the game back and you look at the end of the game, they've battered them start to finish, and they've gifted them
3 shots on target, 3 shots in total for Arsenal, 2 on target, 2 goals. Liverpool 24 shots, 8 on target, 1 goal, 67% possession. Arsenal obviously had made a lot of changes from the from the London derby. Lots of changes. Surprising result, a snatch and grab for Arsenal, but I'm sure Arteta will try and use that as a benchmark, as a turning point to reflect back on, saying, look, lads, European champions are rocked up, and you've defended. Well, Arsenal, you can look at it both ways with Arsenal. You could say Arsenal defended really well, which is what they'll probably take positives from. Say Arsenal defended really well with that back three of Holding, Louise, and I think it was Tierney, actually. But yeah.
Yeah, they're renowned for having a sloppy defence, haven't they, Arsenal? That's become quite a popular trend when you talk about Arsenal. Defensively they're sloppy. They give away easy goals. Sometimes they'll gift you goals. David Luiz, an absolute calamity. To keep out the champions, well, not keep them out, but to defend like they did with the onslaught, I think you can all give them plenty of credit. We know where it's due. But having said that, as an Arsenal fan, and I know Liverpool are a very good side now, and they've just won the league and the current European champions, but as an Arsenal fan, to be absolutely peppered at home like that, surely you've got to be. Surely that's not it. Is that embarrassing?
No,
or is that
it's a sign of the times. Arsenal are way off getting back to that level, of even getting close to competing, and it's reality, isn't it? It's the reality of where Arsenal are.
Yeah,
they're not. They're not really. They're not. Obviously, City and Liverpool are way ahead. It looks like United are looking strong. Chelsea look to be improving well. Arsenal look a long way away.
Yeah, I think that they've gone past the transitional period. I think they've gone through the transitional period and transitioned the wrong way.
Yes.
Yeah, as an Arsenal fan, you would be concerned. I would be concerned. That they're screaming out to spend money. Yeah. And they are spending it, or they are in dribs and drabs, but the signings are poor. They're really poor. David Luiz, you're screaming out for a centre half. You've signed Mustafi, David Luiz, and I can't think who the other one is.
Holding, Mavropanos, Socrates.
You've signed 3 centre halves there, and none of them seem capable. No. Not one.
For me, it all went downhill with Arsenal when in 2016 they came second, didn't they, to us? And they went and signed Granit Xhaka for 30 million instead of N'Golo Kante. As soon as that happened, I thought, here we go. Here's another cycle of Arsenal being shite. But
they've not been great. But like I say, touching on the game again, Liverpool. People are mentioning the record. You can go and beat Man City's 100. I don't think they really care. And as a Liverpool fan, I don't think I'd care either. You've just won the Premier League. It's taking you. 30 odd years, is it? However long it's taken, you've finally gone and done it. So who cares? Who cares if you can't beat the record?
It's a nice bonus. It's like if you get promoted from the Championship. Yes, you'd like to win the league, but at the end of the day, all you're bothered about is being up. All you're bothered about is getting promoted. All Liverpool are bothered about is that C next to their names and in the history books as champions. It's a nice little accolade, but it's not the end of the world. So I
agree. And
push on.
As you say, smash and grab, and fair play to Arsenal. It's going to be a valuable 3 points maybe in the long run, but for Liverpool, I'm pretty sure they don't care at all. So the next one, now this was a big one. This was a massive
for game. One of the clubs, for Villa, huge.
It was huge, and it had potential to be a great game, but it was very different. At half time, not one side managed to register a single shot on target.
I think Everton are I don't Everton just aren't at it fully, and Villa obviously probably went into that game just frightened to lose. They needed the points, and I think they took the lead, didn't they, quite late on with Ezri Konsa from a set piece, and they just couldn't hold on. Oh, it was agony. I know I don't like Villa, but when that header goes in by Walcott and it loops over Pepe Reina, you see Ezri Konsa going to try and clear it, and he messes up the clearance. And it just trickles over the line, and if that is Villa down for me. That moment there is that single moment is the turning point for me. If that goes in, I'd probably have a cheeky $5 on Villa to stay. If that doesn't go in and Villa hold on, I'd probably have a cheeky $5 on Villa to stay up. But that for me, there's going to be very hard for them to pick themselves up after that, and I do think Villa are now down.
Yeah, and I will touch on that goal. And one thing I will pick up, and I'm no expert, I'm just an ordinary football fan like all of you out there watching this. Mm-hmm. But surely, and Villa have got decent heart at the back. I remember from when we played them, and we just kept swinging balls into the box and getting no joy. Yeah. How are you letting someone of Theo Walcott's size or height managing to get on the end of a cross?
Oh, it's criminal.
But not only getting on the end of the cross, but giving him the space and time to direct that header. Mm-hmm. That's the definition of relegation. Sloppy. Right there. You can't let it happen. You just can't.
You can't legislate for letting a bloke who's 5'7" have a free header in the box when you've got two big centre halves. I mean, even the fullbacks, you'd expect Target and El Mohammadi to be comfortably be able to beat Theo Walcott in the air. I mean, and I think they had a few warning signs. They had a few. I think Calvert-Lewin missed a sitter, so it wasn't like they had another warning sign.
No, and like you say, and you just do anything. When I was playing football, you as a defender, might not necessarily win the header, you might not necessarily win the tackle, but just get yourself across there, put yourself in front of it. You do anything to try and put that player off.
Even if there was no one there to even try and put it off. And I think for Dean Smith, you worked so hard. Gravy said it was a really cagey game in the first half. They managed to get themselves in front. They've just got to hold on, and it's such a soft goal to concede.
I think you could tell by his post match interview. He was deflated. I think the whole squad would, and I struggled to see him picking the points up now. Not points,
any sort of bubble or balloon that was inflated from the Palace win got burst as soon as that Theo Walcott header went in.
Yeah. I think that result right there will be the defining moment. Well, not the defining moment, but I think that's
coffin, so to speak.
Exactly. But as for Everton,
flat, boring, dull.
Yeah.
Everton. They are a big club, but they're just a boring club. I'm sorry. I'm not like to be an Everton fan. I just wouldn't. I just think
they've spent a lot of money, haven't they, over the last few seasons, and it's not been good. It's not been well spent.
Hopefully for them next year, Ancelotti's first full year in charge, they can play some exciting football and mount an attack on the top six, like a serious attack. But they look a long way from that at the moment. The midfield's
they used to be everyone's kind of not favourite club, but everyone's as a neutral. You admired Everton, didn't you? They were mixing
Everton did well and broke into the top four or something. You think, go on Everton, have a go. But now we're that team.
No, so. We've taken that crowd. But like I say, as the game itself, just reflecting on that, it was a real cagey game, and there was nothing really. Like I said, I look back at the end, and I think there was the 3 shots registered on target all game. I think it was 2 from Everton, 1 from 2 from Everton, 1 from Villa.
Lacking quality. It wasn't really.
Yeah, I think overall Everton had enough. They know they're not going to get anywhere now. That their season's over as far as they're concerned. And Villa, I think, just lacking confidence and probably lacking quality. In all honesty, I really do.
All right then.
So next one, and it's our club.
Those mighty Foxes versus them Blades.
Yeah, and it was just what these over. So Leicester v Sheffield United, and it was a make or break game for our lot.
Ravaged by injuries, with wheeled Wes Morgan out, blown off the cobwebs. Stuck a teenager on the left hand side in Luke Thomas, who did superb. And I think, thankfully for us, we turned up and Sheffield United rolled over, which was very nice for us. It
was surprising.
They really didn't trouble us at it. It was a really comfortable evening. And the only thing you'd say is we should have got the second goal sooner, but you never really felt in any major danger. I mean, it could have been 4 or 5. If Harvey Barnes could hit a pig's ass with a banjo, it would have been 4 or 5. But no, obviously Isaac Perez got the goal in the first half, assist by the young lad, took it superbly well. And then Damari Gray coming off the bench, he gets a lot of stick from Leicester fans, but he came off the bench in 2 minutes, did what Harvey Barnes couldn't do if he was playing for another 46 hours. He stuck the ball in the onion bag, so no complaints.
I think the problem we've got is we've got Harvey Barnes, he is fit, he's fearless. You know, he'll run at players. He's quick.
Got quality.
And I think he's got the confidence. You know, and he has got the quality. What lets him down is his finishing, and that's shown in the Sheffield United game. On the flip side, you've got Gray, who's very not afraid.
He's a confidence player.
A little bit more reluctant. He's very reluctant to try and take players on, to run at players. Yet when he does get chances, 9 times out of 10 he will take them. I wouldn't say he's up there one of the best finishers in the league.
You back him, don't you? When he gets in areas, when he gets in the areas, you back him.
He doesn't miss many chances, but as for Sheffield United, I was expecting more of a fight. I really was.
Bearing in mind the form they've been on, beating Wolves, Chelsea, and Spurs.
Yeah, and is it a case of them kind of thinking, you know, their European hopes not completely dead? They're not, you know, they have got a chance still, but are they doubting themselves a little bit? And maybe thinking that their season's over.
Perhaps. I mean, Chris Wilder said it after the game. I mean, it was brilliant. He basically said we played today after the game. He said, Sheffield United, we played today like a bunch of individuals. And he said, guess what? When you were individuals, you were Championship and League One players. The only reason you're here is because you're playing the shape I tell you to play in. So if you want to play as individuals, you'll be back in League One and the Championship, which is right. He's got a fair point. He's very fair point. And they looked horrendous. I mean, this was a weak Leicester team. We have been ravaged by injuries like no club has been ravaged this season. We are absolutely down. We are threadbare, and they made it
and
so
easy. Bear in mind that our form has been really poor.
We've got a glass chin, loads of injuries, a glass chin, one good punch by Sheffield United. We could have buckled, and they just gave us no problems whatsoever. So happy for us.
None at all.
Sheffield United, great season. Poor performance. I'm sure Wilder's just brought them back down to earth, and they'll be back to their workmanlike self in the coming fixtures.
Yeah, I don't think they'll kind of. I think they'll learn from that, won't they? Yeah. And Wilder will get them punching again for the last couple of games of the season. But you know, great season from them. Like I said, we touched on the last time. But just a quick one before we move on to the next game. Luke Thomas for Leicester. I know as Leicester fans, you know, we're all raving about him, but I didn't expect him to come in and put a performance in
calm,
like that.
Composed, quality. Yeah. The biggest compliment you can give to the lad is he didn't look out of place. You didn't feel a vulnerability down our left-hand side, and that's the biggest compliment you can give him. Yes, he was. Let's not go crazy. He wasn't like Messi. But he was solid, and he didn't look vulnerable. At no point did you think, they're getting at the young lad. You just felt solid.
I thought he was a breath of fresh air.
Didn't look out of place, and hopefully now he can break into more regular places, especially if Chilwell leaves as well. It's an option.
Yeah, and I like Chilwell, but I do think, you know, he's sometimes his final ball, he's very reluctant to try and play a risky pass, and if he does try and get a ball in the box, it's very much hopeful and very much lofted into the air and hoping someone gets an end of it. He's not very rarely gets his head up and picks someone out. So it was nice to see Thomas to get the ball, and instead of just whipping it in and open Vardy gets an end of it, looking up and seeing that, you know, Perez is in acres of space and picking him out, and it's a simple pass.
But it's composure, isn't it? It's nothing composure. Special. Very easy on your first game to go and spaff that.
And when you play the game yourself, you know how easy it is to not even get your head up and just swing one in. You know, and a lot of fullbacks can be criminal of that. But no, fair play to that. You know, got man of the match as well.
One final note on Chilwell, I'll just say, of all our young talent, if you said to me we have to lose one of our attractive propositions, I'd put Chilwell first on the list of ones to go.
100%.
So let's end it on that.
100%. I'm sorry, Ben, if you're watching that. But so moving on, and the next game was a big one from a Leicester fan's point of view, and it was Palace at home to Man U. And again, wishful thinking that anyone could get something out of this. Well, Palace could get something out of this. But VAR, again,
Stonewall penalty
just seems to stiff us every single week.
Not given, not even checked. Or I think it was checked, but not seriously reviewed. And then the ball doesn't go out of play, and the play carries on. The ball doesn't go out again, and boom, 1-0 United. Scabby. Yeah. It just makes you think that, it's just they always seem to get the decisions, don't they, the big clubs? And then are you getting one back, and it's literally his fingernails offside. And
it was poor, weren't it? It was
anything
poor
that can go United's way seems to be going United's way. It seems to be set up for them to get in the top 4.
Yeah, and if it ain't stiffing us, it's stiffing the opposition. They're playing Man United. That always
seems to do so.
Always seems to be getting the look of the draw. But yeah, the offside wasn't. It weren't offside. If that's offside, the game's gone, isn't it?
I mean, you can get your protractor out and say, yeah, he was, but the game's gone.
Yeah, he's never offside in a million years, and I think
they're okay. They put up a fight. They say very unlucky. Should have had a penalty at 0-0. Should have equalised.
Their form's atrocious. Yeah, their form's atrocious as well, and they're unfortunate. But yeah, that was never offside in a million years. I think it was his shoelace. If that's offside, then I'm sorry that the game's gone. And again, in favour of Man U. And like you've just touched on the other penalty, you've got someone watching that back. That's the best bit about it. You've got someone sat in a room.
Look. It's one of them as well. You've got if it was Man United, I guarantee he gives it. If that's Rashford going down or Bruno Fernandes, he blows that whistle.
Yeah, it's
big club bias.
It's poor.
But to be fair, Rashford took his goal well. Martial took his goal well, but I'm not really bothered about that.
No. Yeah, like I said, talking about the result itself. Yeah, United to get the 2-0 win, and they'll take that all day. They're going to push us right to the end and push Chelsea right to the end. But no, it's frustrating. It really is, and I'm sure many neutrals will agree with us. And it might not just seem like we're being biased from a Leicester's point of view, but it's every week. It's every week. And if it's not,
fan of the big clubs, it's an all too familiar sight. Yeah. The big clubs, especially United, getting the rub of the green.
They really need to clear up the offside. They really do. There needs to be something. There needs to be, you need to make something clear that there's got to be, not necessarily daylight between the two, but it needs to be obvious, doesn't it? There needs to be a body part, not a shoelace, not a stud, not the hair on your tash. Yeah. There needs to be a body part in an offside position for it to be offside.
Agreed.
I really do not get it. But United get the result, and their fans will be chuffed to bits. Like I say, they're going to take it right to the end. Palace on the beach, they're safe. They've pretty
showed a bit more fight, but yeah, like I said, they didn't seem too bothered really at the end of it, did they?
No, I agree. So we won't talk about that one too much because we'll end up ranting about VAR, and we really don't want to do that because that's not what we're here to do. Nice to see you in here, Mano. Just coming towards the end, mate, but you can catch us on the YouTube channels, as we've said before. We're going to move on to the Southampton and Brighton game. We've already spoke about Liverpool, buddy, so you're not going to... no spoilers for you there. So, Southampton and Brighton, a game between two sides that have pretty much... They've packed the suitcases, they've booked their hotels to Mallorca for an all-inclusive holiday. They've had enough, haven't they, really?
Decent enough game then, but I said it had that end of season feel to it. There was no real blood and thunder in the game. Danny Ings, though, I spoke to my dad about it the other day, closest thing in the league to Vardy, he said to me. I said, you know what, I think I agree with you. 20 goals now.
Yeah.
Whatever Hasenhüttl's doing, he's getting the best out of him.
He's a good striker, isn't he? And he had that great... He had the great run of form at Burnley. And then he went to Liverpool, and I think that was probably a little bit too soon for him. I think there was a bit too much expectation on him. Yeah, got the injuries, but he's gone to Southampton, and a little bit hit and miss to start with, but he's really hit form, hasn't he, this season? He's been fantastic, and considering Southampton have been a side that have flirted with relegation and flirted with relegation and poor football, they've not really been. He's been a fantastic striker for them, hasn't he, really? Like I said, they've not really been up there.
Run out of luck. All that selling the best players and finding replacements. Lallana, Lambert, Klein. The list goes on. Mane, Van Dijk. I thought finally now the conveyor belt of players has run out and they're slipping down the leagues. They're slipping down the table and eventually get relegated. Hasenhüttl comes in, and to be fair, he's really put a foothold and they seem to be climbing again. Seems to be a club back on the way up, and Danny Ings has been instrumental in that. I just hope for their sake they can hold on to him.
Yeah, and I'm sure some big clubs will go in
sick,
sniffing for him. They
sick
always
if you're
do.
a Southampton fan and you sold Danny Ings. You'd be sick.
They always do. Yeah, it seems to be the in thing. It seems to be the popular thing for big clubs nowadays.
Lazy
it's a bit
scouting.
like, when you're at school and someone rocks up with them brand new Nike Air Maxes, and it seems to be the in thing to go and buy some more. And it seems to be the same thing with big clubs. Lazy scouting. Let's go and pick up the players that are doing it for the smaller clubs on a relatively cheap fee. Because let's be honest, Southampton have sold some of their best players for next to nothing at times. And I can't. Well, then again, how old is he?
Coming into the best years of his career. 27.
Yeah, so he's for a big club. I think they will be sniffing. And I'm sorry, Southampton fans, but I think if anyone does come, loyalty in football, there is none of it in this day and age. So he will be straight out of there. But as for Brighton,
solid.
It was a 1-1 draw. Yeah, pretty solid.
With the goal.
And I liked his celebration.
Yeah, the crying.
A little bit of a dig back at was it Guendouzi?
Yeah.
I think it was Guendouzi, right? I like that. I'm a big fan of that. I like a bit of rustling. That's why. Big fan of Vards, but
the actual
love a bit of shithousery. It's what I live for. But good point for them. It's a bit of a nothing game for both sides, but to be fair, a draw. Southampton pretty dominant, pretty one-way traffic for majority of the game. They've been unfortunate to not come away with a win.
It had a very end of the season feel to it. I think both clubs are on the way. I think both clubs are climbing in the right direction. So I wouldn't be too concerned if I was a fan of either Southampton or Brighton.
No, and I like Graham Potter. I think over time he worked well with Swansea and he got them moving in the right direction. And I think the season that Swansea have had this year is pretty much on the foundations that he's put in. So you can't knock the bloke for that. He's been very good. But again, a side that a lot of flair, a lot of ability, easy on the eye, but they haven't been clinical.
Not a lot of steel in there, is there? Not a lot of steel.
No, and that's been their Achilles heel a little bit this year. But a bit of a nothing game for both. We're coming to that part of the season, aren't we? And it sounds funny saying that.
It's one of them.
Saying that on the 18th of July, usually we're gearing up for pre-season, but it's I think they're just glad to be staying in the Premier League. So next one, and this was probably the biggest game of game week 36, and it was West Ham at home to
the Hornets.
Watford.
Hammers versus the Hornets.
And I think whoever got the result out of this game were pretty much
put themselves in a great position. Basically saves themselves. A team who loses it really in the shit.
Yeah, I think we talk about 6-pointers, and I think this was a 9-pointer. I don't know about a 6-pointer. This was massive, and I was surprised to hear. I know we were streaming last night now whilst playing some FIFA, and I was surprised for you to say that West Ham were 3-1 up. I really expected Watford to have a bit of more of a go, but having said that. They weren't that bad. They
started slow. They
weren't that bad.
They did play well, and probably over the 90 minutes were the better team, but you cannot afford to give teams 2-3 goals head starts. Soft goals as well. Take Declan Rice's goal out of the equation. It's a screamer. It can happen. But the Antonio goal and the Souček goal, so soft, so cheap. And it's all right then getting your arse in gear, but it's too little too late. You can't afford to give teams goals. West Ham didn't have to work to go 2-0 up, and I think Nigel Pearce at the end of the game was absolutely furious. He said in a big game like that, they had passengers, and it's all right then starting to dictate the play, and you're chasing the game now, aren't you? And they're already after 10 minutes, it was game over, 2-0.
Yeah, and very un-Pearson-like, wasn't it? The way they defended and the way they performed. But I think, in all honesty, I think they're still 4 points clear now, aren't they? They've got two massive games, Man City and Arsenal, and they are massive. To be honest with you, I don't think they'll get anything from any of the games, but I think it. Yeah, sorry about that, man. I think they'll get something against Arsenal, mate. I think
Nigel will pull it out this bag, and we said last week, regardless of this game, we thought the bottom three would be as is, and I'm going to stick to that. And I hope Watford stay up once again, not for Watford, but for Nigel Pearson and Shaker. Yeah,
they've had a bit of an hit and miss season, haven't they? The start that they made I was surprised. I really was surprised because they were a steady outfit last year, Watford.
FA Cup final, didn't they? I believe got to the FA Cup final last year.
Yeah, and I think they finished just above mid-table.
Yeah, solid season.
Pretty sure they did.
Yeah.
But they were they a bit quick to sack the manager this year?
They always pulled the trigger early, didn't they? Because they sacked Gracia. They bought back in Sanchez Flores, didn't they? The one they had before.
That's him.
And then they binned him off relatively quickly when things didn't seem to work out, and they needed a quick fix, and they brought Pearson into the end of the season. And I hope Pearson once again, a bit of a toxic club, just churn managers out. No seems to be any sort of long-term thinking, long-term plan. It seems like we'll get Pearson in. He kept Leicester up. He's kept Southampton up years ago in the Championship. He kept Carlisle up. He can keep teams in divisions. We'll get him in. He'll keep us up, and then we'll fuck him off. And I hope that's not the case. If they do that, Watford can go to fuck. But while Pearson is at the helm and Shaker, I hope Watford stay up just for them, because I like Pearson. Pearson and Shakespeare are held in the highest esteem with me when it comes to football.
Yeah, massively. And like I say, that I think next year hopefully they'll build on this season, and hopefully they won't go down, because like I said, I don't want Pearson to get a relegation on his CV. I want him to always do well, regardless of what side he's at.
The man made our
club. But as for West Ham, that's a massive 3 points for them. I think that's pretty much secured safety.
Still stagnant, I believe. I don't think if they stay up this year, they'll build again and go again next year. I think this is West Ham for now, unless they can get a new manager in and a bit of a revolution. I mean, they just seem stagnant, don't they? Just surviving. Every year they come into it, make a few signings, think we'll have a good crack this year, and then they always seem to find themselves looking over their shoulders at the end of the season and manage just to get out of it just in time. But a stagnant club.
Yeah, no, I agree, and a little bit toxic at times, David aren't they?
And Karen Brader, the relationship between the fans and the board and the stadium.
It's not smooth, is it?
They'll promise when they move stadiums, we're moving stadiums so we can compete and be a top 6 club and rival Arsenal and Tottenham, and then they're sat there playing relegation 6-pointers against Watford 3 years after moving. You can see why they're pissed off. It's a soulless ground. I don't know if you've been, but Jesus Christ, I've been. I went to the bowling as well, Upton Park. Upton Park every day of the week, 10,000 times better. I mean, this one, you sat about 16 fucking miles away from the pitch. You're in a fucking different postcode.
Yeah. I've been to Upton Park, and it was a fantastic ground. For an away fan, my God, the surroundings, intimidating, the atmosphere, everything about it.
Before you kicked a ball.
Oh God, yeah, and I love them type of grounds. I do. I love them type of grounds, and I've been to. I think that's one of the perks of being in League One at the time, as daft as that sounds. Some of the grounds you get to visit, real old school, proper
real
old
English, the backbone of English football.
Yeah, that you don't get nowadays. Everything seems to be very, very much generic. Everything's pretty much the same. You've been to one, you've been to them all, and we fall into that category.
We have our clappers though, so there is that.
Yeah, the only things them clappers are good for, we won't go into that. So, that's pretty much finished game week 36, chaps. Thanks for jumping in.